Hey Tires, Darren here. Welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. Today we're going to be tying a saltwater pattern called the Boom Creek Special. I guess this might be a bit of a variant, as the original I was looking at is more of an orange or a red pattern, but this one's a tan and olive. Great bonefish permit coloration. So the fly was originally designed to fish Florida's mangroves for baby tarpons, and this was tied with epoxy originally, but as you know, epoxy can be quite a mess. So with the use of UV resins, it really makes this an easier fly to tie and a lot less messy. So let's have a look at the material list and get started. Alright, let's get a fresh hook in the vise. I'm using a Mustad S71 SMP-DT number 4. It doesn't really matter if you use this particular hook. Any saltwater hook should be fine. And we're going to start by putting a base layer of thread. I'm going to be using a tan 6/0 uni thread. And we just want to kind of visualize the placement of the eyes. We're going to put it about the 3/5 towards the eye of the hook. Just want to make sure that we leave enough room that we can tie in a wing in front of these eyes after we build the epoxy head here. So we'll just go ahead and X-wrap that. Put a few under wraps as well, just to kind of give it a little bit of stability. We don't have to be bulletproof when we do this. We just want to make sure that the eyes are in place, because when we add the UV resin, it's going to secure them in place really well. So next we're going to take a little bit of monofilament. The mono I'm using here is a 50 pound. Just wrap back to the tie-in point, just over the hook point. And so I like to tie this in along the side of the hook. It can be a little bit tricky. You've got the monofilament kind of wants to go underneath that bead chain eye, but you can just kind of force it in place there. If it's on top of the hook shank a little bit, it's not too bad. Just trim that to make it a little bit more manageable. So I got about 1.5 inches of monofilament here, and that's enough to wrap around the hook shank at the outside of the barbell eyes, or the bead chain eyes. So the bead chain I got actually off a seller on Etsy who sells a bunch of really cool unique colors of bead chain, kind of old metallic colors, so you're not limited to the regular gold and silver that are easy to find. So there were also like some coppers, antique gold, that sort of thing as well. The black and gunmetal black that I picked up as well. These are 3.2 millimeter beads. So you just want to make sure that the monofilament is just on the outside of those bead chain eyes before you start putting the resin in there. So you can use your scissors just to kind of coax that. If you really wanted to, you could use a bit of the resin just to kind of weld it in place there as you go along. So just fish that into place. There we go. So one difference that I added to this fly on the original, it was just a plain body. I'm going to add a bit of flash underneath the body just because it looks really incredible underneath the UV resin. So I've just got a few strands of pearl flashabou. We'll tie that down, and we'll just put our thread in behind the eyes there. And we'll just wrap that, give it a few wraps forward, wrap it back, just to want to kind of fill in that space. And one thing you can do if you don't mind leaving that attached, you can, when you retie onto the front, you can pull that tag end of Mylar over, give you a little streak of flash in between the eyes. So we'll just add a couple half hitches here because we don't need to be too durable at this point because the UV resin is going to go over top of this fly. And we'll just trim the extra bit of mylar there as well and cut our thread. We're going to just get ready to apply some of the UV resin. So you'll want to make sure that you have a toothpick that you can use to move this Solarez around. I'm using the thin hard formula here, and we're just going to do this in a couple stages. So just put a little bit in between the eyes and a little bit on the body, and we'll just move that around with our toothpick. We just basically want to coat the body, just to give it a little bit of durability, and we don't need to put it in between the monofilament yet. We're just kind of laying the base. And we'll grab our UV light and we'll zap that. Give that a couple seconds to set. Now we're going to grab the Solarez again, and we're going to just carefully fill in some of those gaps. And the monofilament is kind of catches the resin there, and it just fills in really nice. We'll give that a zap. Make sure you get it on the bottom as well. Just because of the thickness of it, you want to make sure that it's cured really well. And you can see the nice platform that's forming for a fly. And that'll help the fly sit properly on the mangrove bottoms and the sandy substrate. Alright, I think that's good. I'm just going to tip our hook up. I'm going to grab our tying thread again and tie on just behind the eye. Now I'm going to grab a little piece of tan fox. If you don't have fox hair, you can use something like craft fur. A tan craft fur works really well. Or if you have access to coyote's tail is a pretty nice material for saltwater flies. It's got a lot of natural tans and browns mixed on there. It's not exactly monotone. So I got about 2 or 3 matchsticks worth of hair there. And one thing I like to do is just pull out the guard hairs, and I'll just set those on top of the underfur. And sometimes I'll set those a little bit longer, and kind of acts a little bit like legs or feelers. It's a bit of a thicker, stiffer hair than the underfur, and it moves a little bit differently. So we'll just tie that right on top of the hook shank. I give it several looser wraps just to put a bit of thread there, and then I give the wing a bit of an adjustment, and then I snug it. A couple more wraps just to secure it. And I'll come in at an angle, trim those butts. Next I'm going to take a couple strands of crystal flash, just pearl crystal flash. I'm going to tie them along the sides. So start on my side and just pull that over, give a couple wraps to secure it, and then wrap it up the other side. Then I pull everything up and then just trim the crystal flash so that the tips are even. So one more step in this fly. I'm going to add a couple hackles. This is a whiting American olive grizzly, and the grizzly is a really nice touch. And I really like combining tan and olive colors together. It's a nice natural look to the fly. Even some of my steelhead flies, the olive and tan go really well together. So we'll just measure that out so that it's the same length as the wing. And then we're going to strip the fibers off the base of the feathers. I stack them together and peel them off together just so that they're the same length. And we're just going to tie those in along the side. And sometimes these roll like it does here. And so the best thing to do is just unwrap it and try that again. And then we'll put the hackle on the other side as well. And once we got that, we can just bend those stems back. And those feathers are going to be locked well. And if you need to, you can trim off the stems. In this case, I think we're okay. And then we just have to finish this fly up with the whip finish, and then we'll put a bit of head cement on the fly and we're good to go. And there you go, that's the Boom Creek Special. Hey fly tyers, thanks for stopping by my fly tying channel and checking out the tutorials. If you're new here and like this sort of thing, why not hit that subscribe button? It's almost as satisfying as catching a fish, except you don't need to put on any waders or travel anywhere. I'd love to hear from you, so if you have anything to say, leave it in the comments below. Until next time, this is Darren saying, keep a hook in your vise. Cheers.